Alrighty, so there's been a lot of talk online about the Amazing Digital Circus finale. I just got to see it for myself, and while I think there's a lot of perfectly fair, reasonable things to not be crazy about with the finale, there's definitely some clunkiness with the character writing for Kane coming back and kind of having a whole arc in just a very short time. There's some clunkiness to that for sure. There's a couple questions that maybe shouldn't have been as ambiguous as they were. Sure. Gangle definitely underused. Ragatha definitely a bit underused. Kinger probably could have gotten like one more like bigger scene. However, I disagree with the people who dislike how Jax was written. The Jax and Pomni stuff, which to me was always my favorite part of the show. I always thought that they had the most interesting dynamic. I don't personally mind that that's what a lot of the finale focused on, because I think the show as a whole is about interpersonal relationships being the thing that makes life bearable. It's the connections we make with each other that makes life bearable. And the other characters were able to all be friends, but the thorniest part of the narrative is Jax's role in this as someone who would not receive help. She closed herself off from that chained door. You know, she closed herself off from the part of her that would be open to receiving help for any of her self-loathing issues or any of her traumatizing childhood experiences or whatnot. And I really liked that the show well, number one, there was that friction between her and Pomni that made the conflict interesting, and number two, again, for a show that's very much about like the power of friendship or whatever, it was a genuinely challenging and confrontational thing to put forward a character who, again, basically could not, you can't boil down to just simply she was a good person or she was a bad person. She was a very complex person, and I think that the conclusion of her with the tent of getting a little bit of peace despite spiraling off was one of dignity. It was bittersweet. It's not necessarily a positive conclusion or a redemption arc, but it just sort of felt very human to me. There are sometimes in life there are people that we really want to help, or that I think sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where we're pushing away people without realizing it, and then people either are gone or move on, or you're no longer friends, or you no longer know them, or in some cases people die. And then you never get a chance to make up for it. I think that's a really powerful thing to put into a show about relationships, because that's the thing. The Amazing Digital Circus never really was actually about existentialism or philosophy. Maybe a little bit of toying with the Manichaeistic framework of good and evil, but it was always about making connections with people. This is established in episode 2 with the funeral scene. That's the pathos of the Amazing Digital Circus, and that's what the ending does focus on. I don't know. I was very moved by it. I was very affected by it. It's the type of thing I'm going to be thinking about on and off for a very long time, and I was very glad that Jax was a trans representation and was genuinely a flawed and morally challenging character. I'm all for positive representation. I think we need more of it, but I'm glad that this stories like this, I think there's room for everything. I think a story like this has its place, and I think it's very bold and artistic to have something that was this tremendously popular and not have a safe ending that would satisfy everybody or satisfy a larger amount of people. I think this was a very risky thing and very bold to focus on the Jax character. And I thought one of the points, and this is, look, I'm not going to contend with anyone who's had sort of life experiences that might inform this kind of opinion of disliking that Gangle cries for her. If you didn't like that, if you thought it was off-putting, totally cool. Fair enough. I liked that because I felt like it was very human. That regardless of how we feel about each other sometimes, or sometimes in life there are people we're close with that end up hurting us, or just even just people you don't really know who may have been cruel or bullied you or whatnot. They're we still are sad when people die. Like Gangle still. Let me put it like this: Gangle didn't want Jax to be eternally punished, like some fans seem to want. Gangle wanted Jax to become a better person, and now she doesn't have that chance. And so that's where Zubul literally points out, like, oh, you're probably having a lot of weird feelings right now. I don't know. If you didn't like it, you didn't like it. It's cool, but I thought it was a very, very moving work overall. Hit on some very personal stuff in a way I found impactful, and was way more committed to being genuinely morally challenging than I think people are giving it credit for. And I don't agree that that stuff was poorly handled. Just my opinion. I love the ending. And Goose, if you somehow see this, if this video ends up somehow circulating in your YouTube pool, thank you for making this cartoon. It meant a lot to me. It made a mark on my life, you could say.